like some of this access that we're getting, what I see in this is I see a manager. I see managers do things right, leaders do the right thing. I don't see a plan. I don't see something that is, okay, this is the New York Giants football team. Like all of a sudden this year they've changed their tune. Last year they had to have Barkley and they had to have Jones. This year they don't want that. You can't change that. Philosophically, that doesn't work. You can't build teams like that. Look, I admire they got Brandon, they get Brian Burns. That's good. Did they improve their offensive line? We shall see. They had Illuminor as their number one offensive lineman. The Raiders last year thought he was an average right tackle. Now they're going to play him at guard, which he's not very good. We'll see how this all works out. But I have an issue when there's not, you need a leader. You need somebody to come in there and say, this is who the New York Giants are, and this is what we're going to become. And that's why they've had a 36% winning percentage since they went to the last playoff, since Tom Coughlin left.
How many years are you in the NFL?
35.
Okay, so this is coming from Michael Lombardi, who is 35 years in these meetings that I am seeing for the first time. Okay? Mm-hmm. So and champ multiple time, and part of some of the greatest like multiple times, like just a wild amount of football info in that Italian brain right there. Okay? Those Italian eyes right there have seen a lot of football and a lot of ball, and those ears have been in a lot of rooms with people talking ball in them out. And when I'm watching this for the first time, because I've never been in any of those meetings before, I've always thought about how they probably go. I've never been in there. Literally, first episode, I watch it and I'm thinking to myself, is this how it always goes? Makes sense if they're like, hey, no opinion's a bad opinion and like this type of thing. And then I start thinking to myself, like, I don't know who any of these people are, but do I know who any of these people are? Are these the smartest football people? Then I hear what they're saying and I'm like, that just sounds like an internet person talking, not like an actual football.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I look on the internet and I'm like, what are the Giants fans' reaction to Hard Knocks? Because I'm not as invested in the situation as they would be. Mm-hmm. And it was like, Giants fans were like, yeah, like we got it. So I'm like, all right, so I guess I'm just kind of misreading this entire thing. And then like every episode that comes out again, I'm watching, I'm like, man, I did not think this is how it went. But if they end up winning, right?
Yeah,
there's always multiple ways to do it. If they end up winning, there's always ways to do it. But me listening to those conversations, I'm like, man, no football person that I've ever, maybe some of it, but there's some ideas getting tossed out there that don't feel like like this is the highest level here.
Well, let's just start with this. You have to know who your competition is. This whole idea that they had no idea that the Eagles were interested in Barkley.
Come on! Here's the clip. Okay, so when they're trying to find out who is in the Saquon market, shout out to the money team, Ed Berry, doing the negotiating. By the way, he is a handsome. He's got a southern accent.
Great flow.
We're talking, he is a good dude. We love Ed Berry. He's a massive piece of this entire show. But as the negotiation is taking a turn and Saquon Barkley is going publicly, Mara now is in Shane's office with all Shane's chiefs of staff, and they're trying to have a little convo about what's the future going to look like.
What's the latest? Just on the Saquon thing.
I just got a text that Chicago's driving the price up and Philly's out. I don't know if that's true or not.
Philly's out, yeah.
Which I don't know if I'll make a couple of calls. I don't even know if that's gonna happen, but
I have a tough time sleeping if Saquon goes to Philadelphia. I'll tell you that. As I've told you, just being honest. I've been around enough players, so but he's the most popular player we have by far.
Yeah,
that's the understanding. Yeah. A lot of jerseys going.
Yeah.
This is
look. I think John Mara speaks. John Mara is a really wonderful human being, and he's a very nice man. And I think what he was trying to get across there was he wanted to get it done. Joe Shane's very fortunate Al Davis wasn't in that room because it would have been ugly. It would have been very, very hard for him. He would have gotten a ton lashing. Look, the reality here is there's no identity of the team. That's the biggest issue. And so they talk about the quarterback and they could trade up and what they're going to do. But what they're doing is collecting talent. And if you want to win a Super Bowl, if you want to get outside of that 36% win percentages, which they've had since Tom Coughlin left, you've got to build a structure. And they did it. They started it in 79. That's where I learned football from, was watching them and how they built their franchise through their grading system and how they were able to build a team, not collect talent. And I think that's the issue. And losing Barkley, I know, look, Shane believes that at 27 running backs are going to be downclined. I think there was no doubt when I watched this show, Joe didn't want to sign Barkley. I think you could just see by his body language. He didn't think it was a worthwhile investment. I think he truly wanted to sign Singletary, who's the same age, but at a much cheaper price. And I think that's what he ended up getting. And I think he kind of manipulated it around to where it became too expensive. But I think it puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback because the quarterback's going to have people in the backfield. Look, we all talk about these great receivers. The running back makes the spread. The running back's the point guard. And when you have a back like Barkley, you've got to defend on the down, it makes it more challenging.
Yeah, a lot harder to throw against a light box. You know, if you don't have to bring an extra person down in the box to stop that running back, and there's no fear of that, all of a sudden you got a little different coverages that you're staring at and that guys can work with. And these defense coordinators who are brilliant can then cook up a little bit more. We all of a sudden got an extra guy now that we can cook up a little pressure.
You got to be worried about who's guarding Saquon too in the passing game. You know what I mean? So that's a whole nother. If he runs gets in a wheel or has an angle route like that red area, like he's 26 is always that's a game record. You know, he's a game record. And yeah, he's 27. He's had some injuries, but to your point, watching it's like, yeah, you're paying the quarterback $40 million. Now, if you're Joe, you're basically betting this all your job on Daniel Jones.
Yeah, and there was obviously a lot of issues with this Giants team in recent history, and that's why Shane was. Joe Shane was brought in. Mm-hmm. They're going into their first year. And if you talk to Giants fans, which we happen to have one in the office, he's like, yeah, you paid Daniel Jones, we move forward. Like they are, I want to let you know how Giants fans are, at least the one that we're talking to. Not all of them. Our Giants fan, though, is like, yeah, we have sucked 36% since leaving Coughlin. And I think you think it's potentially because ownership has maybe done too much, right, Bruce, in that kind of convo around Giants?
Yeah, that's kind of the popular thought is that John Mara kind of gets involved in the football operations a little more than maybe we would want him to. But I do kind of disagree where – like the needs were the offensive line, like we had to fortify it. Runyon, Illuminera, we'll see how they do and how that goes. But I think the identity is going to be rushing 4, having a strong pass rush with Kayvon and Burns, and hopefully running the ball a bit with Singletary, and it will be, Daniel Jones taking us as far as he can go.
They lose Darren Waller as well. They lose Darren Waller.
Good luck.
Thank you, Lord.
Did you just hear yourself? Tape that. Somebody tape that.
Yeah, we did. And he started fading off at the end, too.
He wasn't even believing what he was saying. I mean, like, seriously, look, it's one thing. They didn't draft anybody in the offensive line, and they put it as a priority. I mean, look, what you're saying right there is Evan Neal's going to be your starting right tackle. I'm not sure Daniel Jones would approve of that, the way he's played the last couple seasons, but we'll see how it goes. Everybody's going to have an opportunity. It's hard to be able to be a great defense if you're always playing from behind. I mean, that's what makes Pittsburgh so unique defensively, is because under what they were able to do in the past, they never played from in front. Whereas Baltimore, they're able to play from in front. Baltimore's got a 142-point differential at halftime. And so now you can rush the passer. Now you don't have to worry about defending it. But when you're playing from behind all the time, like the Giants are going to do, and you're putting the pressure on Daniel Jones, Daniel Jones on third down, just watch the third down tape. When the game speeds up, it becomes harder for him to execute. That's the issue. He's a wonderful athlete. And he has to run with the football. And when he runs with the ball, he's dangerous, but he can't stay healthy running. See, it's a double-edged sword here.
Wink, too, not there.
Yeah, no more Wink.
He's at Michigan.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Wink Martindale.
Yeah, I know.
Look out.
One of the greatest defense coordinators in the history of the NFL is now at the Michigan Wolverines.
Yep.
And just we'll get back to the NFL here in a matter of moments because Ty has a question about good Hawkeye. Sharon Moore, offensive line guy. Okay, not scared of this. Then you got Wink on the defensive side.
Bringing it.
Nobody thinks or expects anything out of Michigan this year. I don't think. They're not really. Georgia, Ohio State, right? And then Texas is being talked about in this entire thing. Oregon just got a blank check from Knight. I think that happened in the last couple of days, the landing or whatever. Yep. But nobody's expecting anything out of Michigan because Harbaugh's gone, JJ's gone, Blake Corum's like so many gone. And then like Wink Martindale is their D coordinator. Yeah. I saw that. I saw a picture last week while I was on break. And I was like starting to like catch up on stuff, so I started through stuff. And I saw Wink's face, and I'm like, I completely forgot that Wink Martindale is going against college offense coordinators now. Mm-hmm. Like,
oh yeah,
not that it's that's a different thing, but it's like,
oh, it's a different thing. It's a different thing.
I think so.
It's a different. I mean, first of all, he's going to attack. First of all, one thing we know from college to pro, the protection schemes in college are very simplistic. and the pros are much more complex. That's the hardest thing for young quarterbacks to understand, is the protection, how to get protected, how to do all that. Wink will take advantage of that. And Wink has been very good at being able to attack the passer with overload pressure, not necessarily zero blitz pressure.
Yeah, but with the Giants, you lose DC.
Yep.
You lose Saquon.
What?
You got a $40 million quarterback. You're on Hard Knocks for the first time ever with everybody hearing everything you're saying about everything you got going. That's just a nightmare. You know, that is. But good luck. We're pulling for it. I love Dayball, too. He cracks me up.
Yeah, great TV. Great TV.
I like Dayball, too.
I love Dayball. Dayball babyface.
He's not going to run a 7-flat 40, whether a chicken wings at the end of the line or not. He ain't running a 7-flat 40. But I like him. You know, I mean, he's a great guy. But look, we're talking business here. We're not talking personal. And I think, to me, have they closed the gap on Philly? No. I think Philly's a dangerous team with Barkley in the backfield, A.J. Brown, Smith. I mean, they're as talented as any team in the league, offensive line and skill. I think it's hard. And look, the Giants have struggled to beat Dallas, and they've struggled to beat Philadelphia over the time. They are the only team in the last 10 years that have not won the NFC, and we've seen a revolving door on the NFC every year.
Sirianni with Saquon.
Oh, yeah.
They got Fangio now on defense.
He might run for 250. Against the Giants that first game. The revenge game, the first one, is always big.
2 touchdowns.
Andre Johnson had 4 catches for the Indianapolis Colts, maybe the first 8 weeks of our season. We played the Houston Texans. He went for 175, had 2 touchdowns, and then just kind of walked out. It was like,
hell yeah.
That is just how it normally goes.
And that's a team effort. Coaches, everybody knows. All right, you're going to be out there for the coin toss. Everybody knows what's at stake.
I thought watching, I think it was 2 episodes ago, when Shane said to the agent who you mentioned, when he said to the agent that, and this is my observation, this isn't like I have information, but one of the jobs as a negotiator talking to the agent is you're playing poker. You are really like rounders. You got to figure out if the pot, what hand he has, and there's telltales in the hand, right? And so I think, to me, when I was listening to that conversation where Shane was trying to make sure that the agent would guarantee him a chance to match the deal, I could sense from that conversation, from listening to the agent's voice, that he had a deal. He knew he had a deal. He knew he had a deal that was out there. And if I were Shane at that moment, I would have gone back to John Mara and say, look, I think the guy's got a deal somewhere out there. And they had an opportunity. They could have, at that point, they could have still franchised him if they wanted to. But I think at the end of the day, they wanted to get away from the responsibility of paying a running back, all that.